Welcome to Fuja Bonsai, and today we're going to be looking at my Fuja Cherry. This is a tree that I've had for probably around 4 years now, and it's really starting to mature. Got a really nice thick trunk starting to form. I've been working on the root spread, and it's really nice and radial. It was repotted this year into this terracotta pot. And I've been really just focusing on building up those core primary branches. Fuja Cherry is really good bonsai to work with because it back buds quite easily, so you can cut it back hard and it will just bud out everywhere. So it gives you lots of choices to choose from. It also has a really nice winter foliage. This year winter has kind of come up on us pretty quickly and it's been quite wet, so the leaves are a lot more dappled than usual. But on a usual year, they're usually really nice and red and vibrant when it comes into winter. So today, all I'm going to do is trim up the branches, cut them back, do some branch selection. I'm going to remove all of these leaves. When the leaves start to change colour, that means that the tree's pulled in all the nutrients back into the trunk and the roots. So it's a really good time to remove them because they're not really adding any value to the tree, and it also presents opportunities for insects to hide inside them. So I'm going to remove all of that. And then if there are any big branches, just kind of sealing those wounds so that they don't dry out over winter. This year the tree didn't really grow too much because it was probably focusing on growing those really strong roots. So I'm hoping next year, now it's had that kind of 12 months or a growing season to recover, it should bounce back quite nicely. So let's zoom you in and take a look at the tree. I'm going to spin it around so you can see it from all angles. So here's the front of the tree, moving around to the side and the back, and back round to the front. So first thing I'm going to do is remove these leaves, so let's have a go at that. And for this I just use these spring-loaded scissors, and they're really easy, and I'll just cut off the leaf stem. What this then does is the tree will drop that leaf stem and everything should be okay. Whereas if you cut it back too far or pull it, you run the risk of damaging any buds, or it actually could run the risk of creating infection on the branch itself. So by removing it on the leaf node, the tree dies back, or the leaf dies back to the branch, and it keeps it all nice and sealed. So this is going to take me a bit of time. There's quite a lot of leaves on this tree, so we'll come back once I've got a little bit further and take a look. You can see here on the branch that there's loads and loads of buds all over it, so it's really healthy. And it should bounce back quite strongly next year. This is a really important part of the process because I can see already bugs are starting to hibernate in the branches. I've just found a tiny little snail shell living up in the canopy, so I'm going to chuck him outside. There's a lot of kind of build up in the nooks of the branches as well, and this again can be a really good place for insects to live and overwinter, which can impact the health of your tree. It can also lead to fungal problems, which is quite a challenge to get rid of. You can see on this branch here there's some kind of caterpillar that's been overwintering in the leaves as well. So again, I'm just going to chuck him outside. There's a few crossing branches on the tree, so being able to defoliate the tree once a year is really good, because you can come in and do that branch selection, really see what the tree's put out this year without kind of anything being in the way and obscuring you. And I find it really therapeutic this time of year, just slowly going around your tree and removing those leaves and getting it ready for winter. Now these leaves probably will eventually drop off in their own time, but I've got quite a lot of trees to winter up. So if I waited for them all to lose their leaves before working on them, probably wouldn't have time to do all my trees before spring rolled around. So that's now all defoliated. I'll zoom you in and we can have a look at the tree. So you can see we've got really nice primary branch structure. There's a few problem areas that we can work on today and prune back, and some pieces that we'll probably let grow nice and long for next year. So I'm going to prune the branches up first, and then we'll come in and tidy up the surface of the pot. So what I'm looking for is, at this stage, thinning out the branches. There's a lot of clusters where you've got 5 or 6 branches all coming out of one spot, and this is because it backbuds so strongly that when you prune it back, it just explodes. And it's a sign of a really healthy tree, so I'm pleased to see it, and it gives me lots of options and choices. So I'll show you what I mean by that. You can see here that this branch here has got 5 kind of branches coming out of one point. So it's important that we thin that down into at least a maximum of 2, because if you leave it, the branch will start to swell and it will create reverse taper. So if we look at this front branch here, we've got some nice horizontal branches, one that's coming back into the tree, so we can remove that. Same with this tall one here. If I can get in. We've got a vertical branch that we might keep, a branch going radially out, and then one coming directly towards the viewer and one going to the side. So this is quite a difficult decision to make at this stage. I don't think for this part of the tree we need any vertical shoots, so I'm going to remove that. This one is relatively straight. It follows the same line as the branch, so we want to create a change in direction as well as taper, so I'm going to remove that. And then that leaves us with some buds here. So I'm actually going to prune the tip of that branch back, and then the rest is fine. There's a stub from last year, so I'm just going to come in and prune that a bit more flush. I'll also apply a bit of cut paste to that as well, because it's quite near the branch itself, so we don't want the branch to die back. This is the cut paste that I use. I just bought it off, I think it was off Amazon or eBay. I've had it for a couple of years. It's really good value, and the trees respond quite well to it. So this isn't a paid promotion, but if you see one and you're looking for a cut paste, I'd highly recommend. On the same branch, we've got something growing in the nook here, so I can remove that. And then if we come to the branch here, we've got kind of a branch going this way, a branch going this way. This will start conflicting with the branches over here, so we can remove those. We don't need that branch. There's quite a few buds on this branch, which I'm just going to remove a couple that have already started to extend, because we know we're not going to need them. But the rest I'll probably leave as backups in case there's any problems up here in this main branch at the top. This branch leader here hasn't really grown much this year. Just removing any piles of dead leaves, just so that no insects can kind of get stuck in there. and we don't really need to do any pruning on that branch. So let's move on to the branch on the side. We've got one that's grown back into the tree that we can get rid of. We've got a downward facing branch here which we can also get rid of. And then we've got two branches coming from here, which is fine. A lot of buds, but again, let's let them extend and we can come in and change that up. I really like this branch here. It's a really nice direction and taper. So what I'll probably do is let it grow for one more year and actually remove the top part off the branch next year. And then that will allow for this to become more of a side branch rather than at the moment it's kind of like a trunk, and it's making the whole structure look a little bit cluttered. I think longer term we're starting, because these are getting thicker, we're starting to get kind of 3 branches because they've grown. So at some point this entire branch might have to be removed anyway, but we'll leave that on for now. Out the back here we've got kind of 2 forked branches, and again, because this one's got quite thick, it's now started to form a branch of 3, so we're going to remove the back one. And we've got some buds further back here, so I'm just going to take the tip off that branch. This was quite a substantial chunk that we took off, so I just left a bit of space for it to die back and put some cut paste on, but now that it's died and healed, it's time to come back in and just take it back a bit further so it's a bit smoother. So I'll zoom you in so you can see that. So this is the nub here, you can see, so I'm just going to take it a bit further back now that it's had an opportunity to heal. And this will let the branch just grow a little bit more flush. This is quite a big cut, so I'm just going to add some cut paste to it. Again, just making sure that it doesn't dry out over winter. So now you've got that really nice trunk line, but again, probably next year I might take the tip off the top. So we're now onto this back branch here. We can see again we've got a similar cluster starting to form. So I'm going to remove that back branch. And there are tons and tons of buds all over this branch. So I'm going to remove this one that's grown towards the branch over here. So you've got 2 kind of coming from one space. Just remove a lower bud there, it's starting to extend. And that branch is now all pruned up. Moving on to the side branch, we've got some branches that are growing back in towards the centre of the tree that we can remove. This branch is relatively low, it's pointing down, we don't want that. We want everything kind of flowing up into the tree. And we've now got 3 here, so I need to decide what I want to do. I might keep this vertical branch but direct it outwards and just remove the branch there. I'm going to take the tip off this branch because we've got some nice healthy buds further back. And onto the final branch here. Again, we've got some nice buds further back, so I can take off that tip. Remove this kind of crotch branch here. Quite a lot of buds forming there, so let's see if we can thin those out. And then I'm just going to take the tip off this branch. We don't have many buds on the branch here itself, and if I cut it too far back, the only bud we have really is, it would then push towards the centre of the tree, and we don't want that. Just removing a stub. So I'm probably going to trim it back to here instead. So that's the tree all pruned up. It's time to now clean the surface of the soil. Cleaning the surface is a really important part of bonsai care. As mentioned, it stops insects from overwintering on your soil. The only time I'll really leave kind of leaves or needles on a surface is for pines, because the acidity is quite beneficial to the soil health, and with them being needles, as long as it's a nice thin layer, it doesn't present too much of an opportunity for insects to live there or to eat off the needles over winter. So I don't mind too much kind of leaving that on. It's been quite an interesting year growing this Fuja cherry, with it being repotted. It's the first time I've put it into any kind of ceramic or terracotta, I guess in this case, pot. Previously it was just in a nursery pot, and we're only now starting to see moss growing on the surface of the soil as it's starting to get more wet outside. So the terracotta pot was doing a really great job of drawing all that water out throughout spring and summer, which then allowed me to kind of water it more, fertilise it more, and get a lot of oxygen into that roots. So I'm hoping that was a really healthy sign for the tree, and I think next year, when it's not been repotted, we should see how it responds in its new pot. I've also included a bit more lava rock with this one. I have noticed that the soil has broken down a little bit, much quicker than usual, so I might have to look at what I'm mixing with that lava rock. Usually I use a combination of 50% perlite and 50% akadama, and then with some trees I'll kind of mix in a couple of handfuls of that lava rock to create those big air spaces within the roots for for oxidization. So that's now all pruned up and ready to go back on the bench. I've done some branch selection, removed a few buds that I could, and then sealed up some of the wounds so that it dries out nicely over winter. I've cleaned up the soil surface and removed any insects. I'm going to spray it down first with some rose clear, just to kill anything that's maybe crawling on the bark, and it can go back out on the bench. So let's zoom you in and take a final look of the tree. Here's the front, moving round to the side, back to the back, and then back round to the front.